3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We are the Real Pineapple, and this is Hunter here, and I'm here with Colin. Colin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man, but I don't know if I'm doing quite as good as you are. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, we're talking about my least anticipated film of the year. We're talking about
of your life.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about Black Panther, which so let's just get this out of the way. Full spoilers, by the way, for this, because if you haven't seen it by now, you should have. And if you haven't,
I think everybody saw it by now.
Dude, seriously, and we'll get into this. But if you haven't seen it, go see it this weekend. Come back and then listen to our review, because we are going into everything on this. So just to kind of do a little backstory here. So Colin,
hi.
Yeah, that's you. My mother. Mama Hunter, love you, mommy. My sisters,
Mama Hunter.
My sisters Beth and Cameron, love you both. They all of you saw Black Panther before I did, which I'll be honest, kind of pissed me off because I really want to see it Thursday night.
I saw the Thursday sneak preview 7 p.m. showing. It was like the first one possible to see.
Oh, you lucky son of a bitch!
Yeah, and that crowd was lit. Let me tell you,
dude. So let's kind of talk about our experiences here. So, like, I mean, you saw it opening night, like you just said. I mean, were people dressed up? Like, what was kind of the vibe?
There was a few. I mean, no one was like full Black Panther.
Okay.
Like, I didn't see like full costume. But people, I saw some Black Panther shirts. You know, it was a pretty good crowd as far as like the fanfare went. But I think that like this day and age where the seats are all reserved, where you don't get that old school like everybody waiting in line for like 2 hours before the first showing happens, because why? You know, everybody has their assigned seat. But when it's a big, I remember back in the day, you go to these big blockbusters, and I mean, it was a circus, you know, like the Harry Potters or like, you know, the old ones. People would be in the line, but so by the time I got in, the theater was already pretty full, so I guess I can't really say if I saw everybody in there, but you could tell it was some hardcore fans, for sure.
Okay, so the reason I waited is because I went with my girlfriend and a group of my coworkers.
Sick brag, bro.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hell yeah. but Leia's lovely. But I bought tickets like 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and that screening sold out within like 3 weeks. So I was very happy I got tickets as early as I did. That theater was packed, like I said, sold out. I saw a couple people in like dashikis. I saw a couple people in like full African, like, dude, people were freaking out.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. I did see a bunch of kids. There was like a group of like 6, 7, 8 kids or something like that, and they were all in like the African like garments. That was pretty cool.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was. They were going into the showing after the one that got out. I mean, there was probably like 6 or 7 showings on that first Thursday night, all starting like from 7 to 9. You know, it was on multiple screens.
Yeah. So I was wearing my Black Panther shirt. I actually bought a Black Panther shirt about a month ago, and have had it just sit in my closet, just waiting to be worn. It was unworn until this past Saturday.
You have other ones though. I've seen you wear, right?
My Black Panther collection is starting to get... I probably have about 7 Black Panther shirts, and I might have just ordered a hoodie and a hat and a backpack. But that's neither here nor there. But I was excited going into this. Excited to the point where I would say, as far as my expectations, I went in with Dark Knight expectations, to be totally honest. Like, to that point where in my head I'm thinking, I don't know if this movie can top like what I'm thinking and what I'm wanting it to be in my head. And
Yeah.
And what I think Colin kind of gave away my rating by saying, "Oh, we're talking about Hunter's movie," but without outright saying my rating, it matched damn near every expectation I had. I got kind of asked, man, because I know I was excited about this. I mean, and for reasons that will become obvious. I mean, what were you kind of expecting going in?
I mean, I was definitely like excited to see like where this movie was gonna go, and you know, maybe didn't have the highest expectations or the same level of excitement going into it. I was definitely like very interested to see how they would live up to these huge expectations of a lot of people. Clearly the numbers were super high. Everything was being projected where it was going to be the highest grossing movie in February. It was going to break a lot of records like early on just from pre-sales. So it had a lot to live up to. So those being the expectations of the general public, it had a lot to live up to, and so I was interested to see how it was gonna to play out. In addition to that, I definitely realized the significance of this movie. What it meant. Coming out in February, Black History Month. The fact that it has an all-black cast. It's directed by a black director. So I understand all of that, and I knew this movie was a big deal, and it really couldn't fall flat. And that being all said, I certainly wouldn't say that it did.
So I'm gonna just kind of jump into the plot here. So the timeline on this, it's like 2 weeks after Civil War, because I remember they mentioned that kind of like in passing. I was like, oh, okay. So it's pretty much right after Civil War.
Yeah,
So.
And his storyline in Civil War is that his father is killed, and he's going after Winter Soldier, right?
Correct. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is probably my favorite part about Civil War is that they introduced Black Panther. I mean, it's a Black Panther movie inside of a Captain America movie, which is why I was really curious what the fuck they were going to do for this one. So. T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, of course, who you know from 42, Get On Up, the James Brown biopic. Hell of an actor. He steps up and plays T'Challa again. And so he comes back from Wakanda basically to be, I was going to say knighted. That's incorrect. But to be anointed, there you go, as King of Wakanda. But then when he is basically...
in a wild ritual.
Dude, we'll get there. But when a villain shows up in Wakanda, played by Michael B. Jordan, who we will also get to, who plays Killmonger, it's about T'Challa basically restoring the balance in Wakanda and really the rest of the world. So here's the thing about this movie. This movie has a lot of shit going on, and I think if there is a complaint, which I know is shocking, I actually have one, but the movie, and this almost isn't even really a complaint, but the movie is, like, the first half hour is a little slow. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of shit they have to establish kind of quick.
A lot of exposition.
Yeah, like, they have to establish Wakanda, they have to establish, like, the side cast. I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot they do have to really set up, and props to Ryan Coogler, who was the director on this, and a producer and a writer, along with Nate Moore as far as a writer.
And hasn't he been trying to get this off the ground for like decades or something? Like,
so Marvel actually was going to make a Black Panther movie back in the 90s with Wesley Snipes playing T'Challa. That's how far back this goes. I mean, so it's been 20 years in the making. And I don't know if Colin remembers, we never recorded this, but when like 2 or 3 years ago, when Marvel randomly had their big, like, oh, hey, this is what we're putting out in LA, like on a Tuesday, just randomly, they announced a Black Panther movie, and even I kind of raised an eyebrow, like, they won't make a Black Panther movie, bullshit. And now, couple years later, it's like, oh, they made a Black Panther movie. Holy shit!
Was that before they had introduced him in Civil War that they announced the movie was? So he hadn't even been featured in Civil War at the point where they're like, we're gonna make this movie.
Exactly. So that's why I kind of was like, I don't believe you, but I mean, son of a bitch. I mean, prove me wrong, right? But this movie does establish a lot of shit really quickly. I think what just made me smile, or one of the things that made me smile and laugh, is that this movie is like black on black, like dipped in black. Like, it is a black fucking movie. I mean, from the costumes to the music, which is a blend of like tribal, like African based music, along with like rap that they kind of blend in, which works way better than it has any fucking right to the cast that is, outside of Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman, is black as night. Which was crazy to honestly see, just from my perspective, because I mean, you know, it was great to not see a Tyler Perry Presents anywhere attached to this movie, which
love that guy.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, let's be honest though. I mean, this has never really been done before. I mean, they gave Ryan Coogler a $200 million budget, which is crazy. And let's call it like it is. Ryan Coogler's done 2 other movies. I mean, he's almost like a Black Edgar Wright in the way that he's really done just smaller stuff. I mean, he did Fruitvale Station, which, you know, we reviewed and I fucking adored, and Creed, which we all 3 of us fucking adored. But
yeah, I really liked Fruitvale Station too.
Yeah, but he's never done something big budget like this, and so I was excited for him, because I don't think there's anyone better who could do this movie. But I mean, let's talk about it though. I mean, you know, you had Black Panther So Lit trending on Twitter for a couple months. You had the Black Panther Challenge that was raising money for kids to go see this movie. Hashtag What Black Panther Means to Me was trending on Twitter for a couple weeks. I mean, this movie had a lot to build, to live up to. And if this shit just fell flat on its face, first off, I would have needed to take a couple days off work, because I would have just been fucking depressed. But just kind of going down the line here, Chadwick Boseman, this brother is a star, man. And 41, by the way, which he does not look at all. He looks 29. I don't know how the hell he looks like he does, and he's fucking 41. That tripped me out. Just
because he's a movie star.
I mean, true, but I mean, that's impressive as shit, you know. I mean, black don't crack, but he, I had to throw it out there, but
Irish does.
Yeah, not for you, sweetie, but so I don't know about you. I thought he was good in this until there's this point where he's talking to Forrest Whitaker's character, and he's questioning, you know, what something that his dad did, and he kind of goes like, "You're not prepared for the truth," and he goes, "I'm your king now." I was like, Jesus Christ, okay. And I jumped out of my seat a little bit. I was like, damn, okay, black anger. But that honestly, for me, I think is where the movie took a big turn. I went, okay, now we're kind of cooking here. And I think from there the movie just kind of kept going up. For me, what did you think about
what moment are you talking about again? Like, what point did this happen? He was talking to Forrest Whitaker's character, you're saying?
Yeah, and he's basically finding out where Killmonger comes from.
Oh, right, yeah. So he was saying that because Killmonger's father was T'Challa's dad's brother.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. So he finds all of this out, and that's when he kind of has the realization of how this rivalry started.
Exactly. And
yeah, so you're saying that's where the movie really picked up, and I definitely agree. When the start was really slow, and you touched on it as your criticism. That was like, you know, I was a little worried at first. I was just like, man, I was hoping for more going on at this point, plot wise. You know, something deeper to sink my teeth into. But it was a similar case to how I felt with the Post, where it was slow to start out with, but once the plot, like once everything starts fitting together, I thought the story was really, really good. Definitely, I think you were saying that Chadwick Boseman, he playing T'Challa, he wasn't really like having that big performance that we know he's capable of, probably up until that point. But Michael B. Jordan, I thought he outshined him a little bit in the entirety of the movie. Like once you realize this movie comes down to T'Challa versus Killmonger, and their whose rightful places at the throne of Wakanda. Like I was just like, okay, now this plot has really come together. This is pretty dope.
So yeah, let's touch on Michael B. Jordan real quick. Michael B. Jordan, first off, I didn't think it was possible he could get more ripped than he was in Creed, but he found a way. Kudos to him because he was in ridiculous shape. I mean, he looked like us, back in high school, whatever. But he was ripped as hell, and I really do think I'm sure just as motivation he would rewatch that Fantastic Four reboot he was in. He's like, all right, I gotta do better than this, because he had a couple lines where there's a scene where he's basically brought into Wakanda, and he's interacting with T'Challa, and he's interacting with Nakia, and then of course Angela Bassett, that, speaking of who doesn't age, who plays T'Challa's mom, Ramonda, and he talks about how he's the rightful heir to the throne. It's in his bloodline. And he goes like, "Oh, hey, auntie," and I was like, "Damn, this dude is scaring me right now." I thought he was the shit, and I think until a certain point, it reminded me a lot of First Class in the way that like Fassbender played off McAvoy, where I didn't feel like one of them outshined the other. I think for a lot of the movie, it is like almost like a Killmonger movie, and that's not a criticism, because they quote kill unquote T'Challa off for like 20, like almost like a half hour, which I thought was pretty ballsy of the movie, because your main character's not in it, and yet the movie still functions so well because it becomes focused on Killmonger for a little bit, and it's just him being super chill and grabbing women by the throat and lifting them up and just being like a super chill king, and yet the movie still functions so well because of the foundation that it builds in that first 30 minutes, which admittedly, like I said, it's slow, but it's necessary. Yeah, what did you kind of think of Killmonger there?
Yeah, I like that he did get that much screen time at that point. Like once he bests T'Challa in that in the ritual, and where he takes over the throne, which I that the whole premise of all of that like annoyed me, because I was just like, just don't take away Black Panther's powers. Like, you don't have to let him challenge. Like, you're just like, stop being so damn loyal to your rituals. But anyway, they take his powers away, and then Killmonger ends up taking over, and then you get to watch this like psychopath who has been bred on hate. Basically, do his version of Black Hitler, where he's like, I want to do some, ethnic cleansing. Like, I want to bring power back to the black communities in countries where they're oppressed, and I want to give them the power that all this vibranium that you have stored here in Wakanda and all of your technology that you've built from it, I want to use that to help us, rise up and overcome, and it's like, it's crazy. And I have to say, like, usually my number one criticism of Marvel movies is that, like, you know, the villains, you know, are my least favorite part. I don't think they're very good. Usually they're very CGI oriented, where I just don't find them very threatening or real. And to have a villain played by Michael B. Jordan that was, like, seriously scary. Like dude is, you know, gonna, like, wipe out, you know, over half the world is his main goal, you know, or, like, you know, basically just change the world order in a very violent, very horrific way. You know, that was, like, that was very real and raw emotions, you know, coming out of Michael B. Jordan playing that character. And I was, like, fascinated and really, really interested in him playing that character. It was by far, I thought, the most complex and deep character in the movie. And I was, like, super fascinated and just glued to the screen. Like, I loved it. That was my favorite part of the movie was watching him and seeing where that all went, you know? Like, it really built up this villain that was, like, man. And he, you know, when it comes to that point where he's already beaten the main character, and now he has the Black Panther powers, you know, it just sets up for all this, like, implausible, like, there's no way that T'Challa can overcome this. It just sets up for, like, an awesome ending. So, I mean, I thought it was awesome.
I will say something that the movie actually did a good job of doing. I mean, because everyone has seen the Infinity War trailer by this point. You know Black Panther's in Infinity War. And yet it gave me just enough doubt to buy into the movie and go, oh man, Wakanda's kind of fucked right now. Like, that he's in charge. And Michael B. Jordan, I will say Killmonger has my favorite line in the movie, and I will get to that. I want to go down the rest of the cast real quick because the cast is just pretty ridiculous. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Nakia, who's a spy, like a spy throughout the world for Wakanda, and definitely kicks some ass, and kind of plays T'Challa's love interest. Like, she's an ex, so that's, like, quite interesting to kind of see that dynamic kind of play out. I know you say Killmonger almost stole the movie for you. I'm gonna put, God, all these black names calling that to, like, brush up. Letitia Wright, who plays his sister Shuri.
Letitia.
Is Letitia?
That's what it looks like to me.
Letitia.
Yeah, it looks like Letitia.
Letitia? Sure, we'll go with Letitia. Letitia Wright, God, you'll be right. Who plays Shuri. You know my family well. All of a sudden thinking, it's like, oh my god, this is Bev. Like, if Bev was a genius and could develop, like blasters, this would be her. Because Shuri is such a little shit, but in the most endearing, like, aw sort of way. I mean, she is that bratty little sister, and she is just busting T'Challa's chops pretty much whenever they're around, which, to be fair, he kind of probably needs, you know, someone to keep him in check a little bit. She has some of my favorite lines in the movie. You know, she talks about, like, oh, did he freeze again? And there's this point she just flips him off when T'Challa gets one, like, kind of jabbing at her, and she just immediately flips him off. I was like, damn, she is just, like, what an a-hole. But they do a good job of establishing her out the gate, and her and Martin Freeman get some scenes together, who plays Everett Ross, who returns from Civil War. They get some really cool scenes together. One of my favorite lines in the movie, he wakes up after getting shot, and he goes, like, is this Wakanda? And she goes, no, the Kansas. I'm like, God, you are such a, like, what a smart ass you are. But she had me just rolling at points, and I like where they end up with her character quite a bit, actually, because it does set up some possibilities going forward that I think are interesting. And then where she factors in the very last end credit scene, I went, ooh. Yeah, kind of your thoughts on her.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely, like, my favorite character. I mean, I think she's easily the most lovable. She, you know, like you said, she's a bratty little sister. She's definitely the comic relief of the movie. She's very funny. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing not to like about it. She did a great job. Just playing that fun-loving, kind of bringing a little levity to everything. But she did it in a way where some of the movies have been overly jokey and comical to the point where they kind of really ruin the tone of a lot of scenes. Where I thought they did a little bit of better job in this movie using her in that facet.
No, that's fair. I mean, just for her though, I'm curious where they're gonna take her character, and I don't want to spoil the comics just because I could be spoiling Black Panther 2, which will happen. But I'm curious where they're gonna take her character. I feel like she'll be in Infinity War because it definitely looks like Wakanda's a big part of it. The last character I do really want to touch on is and I'm definitely gonna get this wrong. Michonne from The Walking Dead. That's a Denai Guraya. I'll go with that. Who plays yeah, sure.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Denai looks like.
Yeah, I know. That's a hard one to say, but okay, so I thought she was scary as Michonne. This movie just really confirmed, man, you would never try to steal her wallet or her purse because I truly believe she could beat the shit out of me. Like, I was scared watching her, and kudos to her, she went straight for the balls, like, multiple times. I was like, oh, good for you.
So what's her real, I feel like I never really got, it's Okoye, is that her character's name?
Correct, yeah.
And then Nakia is the other one?
Mm-hmm.
So what was their relation to T'Challa?
So, remember, Okoye is the leader of the, and I'm totally blank on the name of the goddamn group. The nerd part of me should be ashamed. I need to look it up. But
all the, like, warrior women.
Yeah. She's the head of them. And then...
Okay. So she's not like part of, like, the royal Wakanda family. She's just a warrior, but she's like the head of the warrior group.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Lupita's what, like, second in command?
So she's just like a spy who basically comes and goes and, like, reports back to Wakanda, like, what's going on.
Okay. She's like she's like the James Bond. She's like the secret op.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but there's a scene, Dora Milaje, pardon me. I was like saying another Dora something. Dora Milaje. So there's a scene in the casino where they interact with Andy Serkis, who is playing Ulysses Claw again from Age of Ultron. And I gotta be honest, man, I just love seeing Andy Serkis in pretty much fucking anything, and it's always nice to see him on screen instead of someone going after a ring or a giant ape, or it's always nice to actually see him, and I actually liked him because he was fucking weird. He was eccentric as hell, and he had one of the lines that made me laugh really hard. He's like, "Oh, I made it rain," and the reason why that happened was actually pretty funny to me. And it leads to one of the first. There's two really cool fight scenes back to back. That whole fight scene in the casino, and it leads to that car chase, which is just gangbusters for me. But I thought Claw was actually interesting. I thought he served his purpose because I didn't want to get like an Iron Man 2 type vibe where they had two villains going against the hero. Like, that's too much. So they did a good job of having Claw serve his purpose and then move on to Killmonger. Like, it was kind of like getting, a little appetizer. It did what it was supposed to. Main course. Here you go. That's how I looked at Andy Serkis.
Yeah, he was like the goon. He was like second. He was like the henchman, like main henchman, like the boss before you fight the boss.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like a secondary boss before you fight the one that makes you go, oh damn it. But I just want to jump back here and just talk about the music. The music was so well done, and I don't think we're given. We're not. I want to make sure we give Chadwick Boseman his props, because one thing I do love about T'Challa is that he's having to deal with the concept of his dad fucked up, And his dad fucked up in a really big way. Like, when you find out why Killmonger is so pissed, I think that's something that, as a fan, made me so happy, is you can see where Killmonger's coming from. I mean, there's a point, he drops some lines talking about, didn't civilization, didn't life basically start here in Africa? I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I went, he's not wrong. Like, I mean, his method is horrible. Don't get me wrong. But him being so angry, I went, yeah, I can see why he'd be so pissed off. And so, he talks about the fact that there are so many, there's so many, like, black people all throughout the world who are not being helped, who are suffering. And I was just sitting there laughing, thinking, oh man, like, I'm sure some people are just going to totally miss the subtext here about having, resources and not reaching out to other countries. Like, oh, that's so cute. Which is something a lot of us should probably be hearing right now. But I loved his motivation. His backstory is absolutely tragic. Really sad when you find out. And I think what makes him my favorite villain in the MCU so far, and even more so than Loki. I know some people will say, what? The reason why is because Loki, when you find out why Loki's so upset, I mean, yeah, Odin doesn't tell him that he's, adopted because the Frost Giants basically fell and da-da-da. But Killmonger's reasoning is so very human and is such a issue in the black community growing up without a father. It just really hits a lot of nerves, like a lot of real world nerves that I think people aren't gonna expect. And so I could only find myself so upset with Killmonger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that when I was talking about how good the villain was earlier too, you bring up a lot of good points, and that's how I was feeling during the movie, and that Chadwick Boseman definitely deserves props. He does a great job in the character he's playing, but in the context of the characters, I just feel like Black Panther, like T'Challa, he's like one of the least relatable characters in the entire movie. I mean, he's a prince of a king of like a basically like magical kingdom with unlimited resources and technology. He's royalty. It's a hard character to relate to. The most relatable character I find is actually the villain, who is just this, pretty much orphaned kid who has this vendetta against, the people that killed his father. And he's just some regular kid that was born and bred in the streets of Oakland, who grows up with hatred in his heart. I'm not saying everybody has that same backstory that they can relate to, but I'm just saying he's the one that's kind of like born and raised from nothing, and he's come to this point now where he's, where he is, and he's a product of his environment, sure, but I mean, he's the character that's the most complex, the biggest backstory, all of that. So that's where I found myself being so intrigued by Michael B. Jordan and the character of Killmonger.
The one thing I would say about Chadwick Boseman that I kind of want to discuss is I think Black Panther gets more relatable as the movie goes on, because he finds out that his dad really, I mean, when you find out what his dad did, it is oh damn, dude, really. I mean, his dad is directly responsible, for the creation, of Killmonger. And he has, and I think where this movie delves deeper is T'Challa has not just Wakanda to think about, but he's got to think about his people as a whole. And I think that's something, like, as a black man in this country, that's something how do I put this? You do have to hold yourself to a different standard. It sucks, but I've definitely had this conversation with, other black folks, just going like, you always kind of feel like you're under that microscope. And T'Challa's not only bouncing that, but he's bouncing the fact of, okay, like, we have all this technology. They mention in the movie that they're about 30 years ahead of where like the U.S. is, and so they have all this technology, insane technology, by the way. They remove a bullet from Everett Ross like it's nothing. Like sure, he's like, oh yeah, you're done. It's like holy shit, what? I mean, it's crazy, and whether you share this technology or not, or whether you keep, the walls up. Again, like people wouldn't catch the context on that, but it's crazy because he's balancing all this, and yeah, I mean, obviously none of us can relate to being a king, but having that pressure, whether it's your family or your household, or being that person who is like the head of your group of friends. I mean, you can take that and I think apply it to a smaller scale and still find it relevant. And I think, and just for me sitting there, I was really sitting there thinking, wow, I feel for the brother. I feel just crushed for him at points. There's a point where we mentioned he loses to Killmonger, and he really tells his dad off. And it was just kind of one of those moments I went, wow. And he talks about how, my people need me, and that's why I can't stay here. And I just went, wow, this movie's fucking amazing. I don't know, man. For me, I totally understand why Killmonger will be on a lot of people's lips, and like why a lot of people will mention him. But I don't want Chadwick Boseman to just kind of get I don't want it to be like a Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart conversation where people are just like, oh yeah, Aaron Eckhart was in this. I mean, Chadwick Boseman does carry his share. While I think they get more into Killmonger, I think it's very much a response to T'Challa. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. But
yeah, and I don't think like the emotions and the things, like everybody can relate to issues with your father and or the issues of dealing with loss and pressure and all of that. Like that's totally understandable. I'm not trying to act like T'Challa is this completely unrelatable character and that he shouldn't be he shouldn't be easily acknowledged as one of the more awesome characters in the Marvel MCU or anything like that. I just in this movie I just felt more drawn to or I was just more interested, I guess, in the character played by Michael B. Jordan. But Chadwick Boseman, by all means does a great job for sure.
So, before we get to our ratings here, I want to throw out just a couple lines that just made me go. We didn't even mention Daniel Kaluuya, who of course was starred in Get Out. He played W'Kabi, who's dating Okoye, and can we just talk about the third act? So there's one complaint I have about the third act. I mentioned the first 30 minutes, how it world building was still a little slow. There's this point where these rhinos show up, and dude, it looked really bad. Like I went, ooh, okay, like that needed another CG render. It looked really bad. So just so everyone's not on my chops saying, oh, you're just praising this. The rhinos in this looked really not great. So just throwing that out there. Anyways, but there's a point where W'Kabi and Okoye come face to face, and he goes, would you kill me, like my love? And she, without missing a beat, she goes, for Wakanda, no question. I went, damn, okay. I was like, you are horrifying. That whole third act is, I mean, it's on a smaller scale than in an Avengers movie, but it gets insane though in the last act. I mean, you see the warrior women, they're facing off against Killmonger. You have T'Challa coming back from the dead. He's fighting his way to get to Killmonger. I was just like, damn, there's so much shit going on. And I think the final fight between Killmonger and T'Challa is actually really well done. It's definitely like a CG heavy fight scene because they're in a fucking African country of vibranium, but I thought the scene was actually final fight was actually directed really well. And there's this point where they're actually talking to each other because there's this giant train, so it kind of slows the fight down so they can kind of get a little more character work in. I thought that was really well done. and and Killmonger, as I mentioned, has my favorite line in the movie, because T'Challa and him basically go up to see the sunset, because Killmonger's dad had mentioned earlier in the movie how sunsets in Wakanda are the most beautiful, like, sunset you'll see. And T'Challa looks at him and goes, we can save you. And he goes, bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from ships because they know death was better than bondage. I went, all right, you just solidified my grade. If that didn't do it, that line broke me. I'll be totally honest. I started crying after I heard that line. I went, oh, that cut me deep, Killmonger. But yeah, kind of your thoughts on, like, the final, like, act.
I thought it reminded me of a lot of movies, but it reminded me of a lot of movies that I really love. So that's not a bad thing. Like, I thought the final scene, the final big war battle, hit a lot of the same beats as like, say, like Lord of the Rings: Two Towers.
That's fair.
Where you have, you're losing the battle, but then you have your reinforcements coming in at the last second, coming in to save the day, which is awesome. It's definitely a great way to go about that. The fight scene also really reminded me of episode 1, Phantom Menace, because they're fighting, they're having their big, and it's very CGI, and then in the middle of their fighting, they're having something dividing them where they're just then now waiting and kind of staring down their person, kind of like how the doors were separating them. Just these are the things that were just popping in my head while I was watching it. But honestly, that's one of the best fight scenes, I think, in a lot of, like, popcorn, big blockbuster flicks, is that fight scene between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan. So,
agreed.
It's mirroring things for me that I really love. So I loved, I really like those scenes. I'm definitely not going to act like, I think this is some kind of perfect movie. I'm definitely gonna talk about how the significance of this movie and what this movie means for filmmaking going forward, and how black filmmakers and black actors are going to get more work and better pay because this movie is making a shitload of money. That's why this movie is incredible. But this is. I'm finding myself as I'm getting older and I'm seeing these movies every year. The use of CGI, and it looks cartoony to me. It looks overly bright colors and CGI, and I know they're doing all of this to make the 3D pop, which is I understand that, but I just feel like the scenes, like a scene like that, is so it's so dark and serious and gritty. It just feels like inappropriate for how colorful and bright everything is to me personally. But the acting and the choreography of the fighting is awesome. So I can't critique it too much. It's still fun to watch, but a lot of that stuff really takes me out of the scene. Like kind of like the fight scenes when they're fighting in front of the waterfalls and everything is just so, I can just see the green screen, you know what I'm saying? But that stuff just kind of brings me out of the moment, but it doesn't take away from the story, and the story is spot on here. The story is really, really good, and that's the most important part, and that's where quotes like you said, when everything's said and done, that's what really matters. That's the meat of this movie, and so that's where I really fall on where I give this movie my my final grade, and it's all that's good. The story was awesome.
Well, all right, man. So tell me, what are you giving it?
So, dude, I'm just because of the significance of this movie. And I know how much it means to you, and I know how much it means to the black community, and I'm just happy that it made all this money. I just think it's fucking awesome for movies going forward. I'm just gonna give it a fan-fucking-tastic, because it was a good fucking time watching this movie, and the acting performances really, really carry the movie for me. Black Panther's probably not going to be my favorite comic book, universe and story. Like, I could get into a lot of nitpicky stuff about how the vibranium and how it just like equals all of these amazing like magical toys. Like, that's not really for me, but the real gritty, the story here is so founded in real life situations and real world issues, and they handle it in such a good way that all of that just falls by the wayside. This movie's a fucking awesome movie. You obviously have seen it if you're listening at this point, but dude, I would see this again in a heartbeat.
All right, so I got there's so much to say about this movie, and we're at 40. Holy crap, we're at 45 minutes. But so like I said, you said it perfectly. You've seen this if you're listening to right now. So I just gotta read the mid-credit scene. This is verbatim what T'Challa says when Wakanda goes to the United Nations. Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot, we must not. We will work to be an example of how we, as brothers and sisters, live on this earth, should treat each other. Now more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we are one single tribe. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, bawled the moment I heard those lines.
It's a great fucking quote. It's a great fucking quote.
I went, holy shit, this movie's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, technically it's a mid-credit scene, so I guess you say it's not part of the movie, but I lost it at that point. And two other very quick shout-outs I want to give. This movie, like I said, was basically made for me. The Kendrick Lamar does the soundtrack. It was the producer on the soundtrack. I've probably listened to that soundtrack 6 times since it's come out a couple weeks ago on Friday.
The end credit song is so good.
All the Stars, yeah. That song's it's so good, and just it's crazy just how this movie just came together. Ryan Coogler, as we mentioned, was like the head writer on this. He did Creed and Fruitville Station. Just genuine just surprise and awe in how well this movie was just put together and produced. And I want to give a shout out to Ruth E. Carter. She was the woman who did the costumes. The costumes are amazing in here. I mean, they're bright. I mean, they're very African inspired, but like an upgraded version of Africa, if that makes sense. It all works really well. The costume design might be the best part outside of the writing for this movie. She also did the costume design for Selma. But this movie, you're right, Colin. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect movie. There's definitely some stuff you can get into. Like I said, there's a few CG parts where I went, okay, it doesn't look great there. But the social messages in this movie, the direction, the art direction, the stunt work is so well done. There was one point where it looked like Shirley was about to die, like Killmonger was about to kill her, and I was sitting in my seat. I was like, I swear to fucking God, if you kill her right now. And Black Panther saved her at just the right second, and of course he did. But the movie got me for a second. I was like, oh, you sons of bitches. But this movie just comes together so well, and everyone who was involved in this movie knew they had a job to do. No one phoned this in. Everyone knew how important this movie was, and I can't help myself. I have to throw this out there. The fact that Black Panther has already made more domestically in 5 days than Justice League made in 13 weeks is just really funny to me.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Like, I'm sure DC just saw this and went, God damn it. Like, really? I mean, so
That really cuts the racist DC fans deep.
Dude, right? I think he just cuts racist people, David. By the way,
Yeah, but the specific niche of the white supremacist DC fan, they just can't handle it right now, and it's great.
And by the way, shout out to Twitter for blocking like all those people who are trying to send out those fake like messages about white people being beat up at Black Panther premieres. It's like, God, you just can't let us have anything, just fucking assholes. But sorry, just had to get that out. But this movie debunks a big myth in Hollywood that if you put people in color, you know, in starring roles, that people won't go out and support it. And this movie is just so empowering. If you're black, even if you're not black, if you're just a minority, I mean, you should really be happy about the success of this movie, because it means that people are going to need to actually start taking chances now, which is important. Because, I mean, look, I love Marvel. I love comic book movies, but I mean, to say the ratio of, you know, white to minorities is a little skewed would be an understatement. So this movie is just, it's a huge win for Marvel. And if they were going to fuck up a movie, I thought it would be this one. And even in my wildest dreams, I didn't think this would make, oh God, what did this make in, so it's the biggest February opening weekend ever, breaking Deadpool's prior record.
With the Monday, it was like 200 something.
Yeah, so with the Monday, it made 242 million. That is fucking insane. Like, good God. So it's already made its budget back already. It hasn't even opened in China yet, which will be, I'm sure, will do very well over there because it's doing well internationally. And let's keep in mind, there's like Jack that comes out for like a month. So Black Panther will be number one for a while. And in Marvel's biggest dreams, there's no way they expected an over $200 million opening weekend. I didn't expect over $200 million opening weekend. This movie is so powerful. It's so inspirational. Long live the king, baby. Long all like, hail Wakanda, man. This is a fan-fucking-tastic for me. This is the second year in a row there's been a black starring movie that's come out in February that I've gone, oh yeah, it's gonna be my best stuff. I almost said worst stuff, Jesus. Cue up the comment section, but people are like, what? But yeah, Black Panther is a fan-fucking-tastic. This is in a tie with Winter Soldier for me, for my favorite comic book movie. I reserve the right to change that because I'm gonna go see it again on Thursday, just to make sure, because I said it's tied. It's not Bezer, but it's tied. So, yeah, next year when we do our best stuff for this year, you'll see how high it is. But because this is on my best stuff. Like, it would take, like, they'd have to put like a Shape of Water sequel out like every month for the that's just as good as Shape of Water for me to knock this off my list. But yeah, I love this movie. So
nice, man.
Yeah, go see it if you haven't. I'm sure you have. I already know people who are going to go see it twice. I might see it twice this week. I might go see it Saturday morning in IMAX. I make no promises that I won't. But guys, what did you think about Black Panther? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow us here on SoundCloud and follow us on iTunes, Podbean, and Google Play at The Real Pineapple. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. Like us on Facebook, and you can follow Colin on Twitter at
The Real O'Neill.
And you can follow our bud Scott. Scott, we miss you, buddy, at Nearman the First. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will have a review up this weekend for Cloverfield Paradox, and I think we'll talk about. We'll talk a little NBA All-Star games. I just want to talk about Fergie because that's just funny to me. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.